Welcome to the Willfully Evolving Woman podcast. Here you will find a treasure trove of potent information for the high-caliber woman who refuses to settle for less than the absolute best out of life. But for us to have the absolute best out of life, we must understand the principal rules that govern this game we call life. In this series, we'll be sharing with you some serious gold. And despite the fact that these rules exist in plain sight, few are speaking about them. This is why we've been tasked to share this information with you today and throughout the course of this series. Because women have the power to change the world through their beauty, their influence, their ability to inspire, their conviction, and their values. How do you wield your feminine powers, and are you using them in the best possible way? Are you truly fulfilled in your femininity and your ability to wield your endowments? This is not your typical female empowerment. The willfully evolving woman operates at an elite level. So if you want to tap into and master the best of your evolutionary potentials, to regain access to your timeless inner beauty, to wield your feminine powers for the forces of good, if you want to willfully evolve most purposefully with agency, true empowerment, and self-ownership, this is the place to be. Without further ado, let's dive right in. Figuring out how this reality actually works, the 7 principal rules of natural law. The rules of the game we call life, are non-negotiable, so best to figure them out rather than wander around blindly in the darkness. Yes, there are indeed rules. They're not relative. They are immutable. This means that the rules of the game have been in place since the very beginning, and they always will be. Depending on how advanced the species, the nuances of the rules become more applicable. The more advanced the species, the higher the expectation of that species to develop and evolve clarity, balance, and wisdom, lest they regress, become abominable, stagnate, and risk getting wiped from the game board altogether. But how does one best approach this game in order to win? How does one develop and evolve so as to work within the parameters of the rules and not transgress these rules? I mean, why not cheat your way to the top? Why not bend the rules and manipulate if it means you'll get ahead? If we look around at the world and the results of humanity as a collective species, it's plain to see that such tactics are bound to fail. And when such tactics appear to bring about material success that can be sustained over a period of time, perhaps for multiple generations, what we see is a kind of hubris that sets in. And this hubris has dire consequences that inevitably reveal themselves in time. We're seeing such consequences right now if we look around. We see people more divided than ever. Mental health is declining drastically. Self-ownership, agency, and courage, well, we see facsimiles of that. We don't see it coming from a space of true self-ownership and individuality, more often than not, sadly. We see these consequences in the individual, in relationships, in families, cultures, and nations. They affect the quality of life for humans and subsequently for the generations to come. We can see by observing humanity that we have not been playing by the rules of this game in a truly biophilious way, a way that engenders life, life force, true beauty, creativity. With mental illness on the rise, and neurotic stress considered to be a normal part of life, with relationships between fellow humans more strained than ever, it is imperative that we as women look at what is causing these outcomes. If we're being honest with ourselves, these are not healthy outcomes. So, what is the cause? We can blame technology, we can blame governments, the economy, patriarchy, capitalism, socialism, the left, the right, men, women, white people, brown people, and on and on. But are these really the cause of the woes of humanity? Are these really the cause of our existential angst? Or is there a deeper underlying root causal factor, one that lies within our very own minds, our very own psyche? This series aims to approach the problem from an angle of clarity grounded in a more objective reality than the human cultural paradigm at present. We will start with the assertion that there are indeed rules in this reality, rules that don't change, rules that can be relied upon with certainty of their authority, rules that can help us make sense of how best to navigate life and relationships, to reach our goals, and to have the kind of fulfillment we hunger for at the deepest levels of our very being. You may have heard of some of these rules of the game, like for instance, the rule known as survival of the fittest, which some say that's just how it is here. But what defines fittest? The nuance of that changes as we evolve, as we develop in consciousness and awareness. By nature of the fact that humans, despite our failings and flaws, are quite advanced, with humans possessing a prefrontal cortex, possessing an inherent capacity for empathy, compassion, remorse, and conscientiousness, and creativity. When we operate at this primitive strata of survival of the fittest, our advancement stagnates, and this stagnates our ability to enjoy the pleasures of living. Adventures, rites of passage, fulfillment in accomplishment, play, work, and vocational satisfaction. These things stagnate. So too does our social contribution and impact, our quality of sex and sexual experience, and perhaps most importantly, what stagnates is our ability to listen and hear each other in relationship. Relationship to ourselves, relationship with others, such as our mate, our friends, our children, our community and tribe, everyone we interact with, animate and inanimate. The quality of that relationship, the ability to hear and see each other objectively, without filters, without projections, stagnates. We can envision and sincerely desire peaceful, happy, and healthy lives for ourselves, for our children, and the generations to follow. But how can we create such if we're still standing on the rung of a neurotic expression of survival of the fittest? How can we create the beautiful, peaceful, innovative, creative, and prosperous world, a world that is possible to create? How can we do that if we're unable to see that there is more to be done to elevate us, not just in imagination and ideal, not just on paper, but in conduct, how we conduct ourselves? And there are still yet so many rungs to grasp on this ladder of evolution, more vistas to explore, more mountains to climb, more rites of passage that must be faced so that we can grow and develop, more inner demons that must be sublimated, integrated, understood, and seen for what they truly are. There are still yet more amazing, life-enhancing discoveries just waiting to be noticed, both out there in the world and within our very own body, spirit, and soul. And as women, at this point, what are our evolutionary imperatives to ensure victory? To stave off annihilation, but further, to turn a corner and push the needle and make real progress towards a peaceful, prosperous, and thriving human family. How do we start? It starts with the comprehension of some very basic foundational knowledge. And for the purposes of relaying this information, we will be using these 7 principles of natural law. These are rules that are immutable, non-negotiable, and cannot be transgressed, for they are the very fibers that comprise the fabric of reality itself. So, best to familiarize yourself with them, no? The first principle, mentalism and consciousness. This reality is a consciousness construct. The second principle, correspondence or resemblance, which states that What exists on the lower plane resembles or corresponds with that at the higher planes, and vice versa. The third principle, frequency and vibration. All things carry a frequency and a vibration. Everything is in motion, no matter how solid or subtle it is. The fourth principle, polarity or spectrum. There will always be two poles in a spectrum from one extreme to the other. The fifth principle, rhythm and cycles. All things move in rhythm in this reality. All things move in cycles. The sixth principle, cause and effect or causation. For every effect that we see in this reality, there will be a cause. The seventh principle, gender or generation. This speaks to libido and how when the feminine principle and the masculine principle come together, they generate a product, an outcome. And this can be biophilious, life engendering, or its opposite, and any quality within the spectrum of possibilities. Further along in this series, after we look at these 7 principles, we will also consider precepts that will faithfully serve in your endeavors to succeed in this game of life at the highest possible levels for you. These precepts are care and attention, morality, poise and inner balance, humility, proper application of experiential wisdom. Please be aware that this is not an exhaustive list, but it does cover what is primary, and we do well to value what is primary. There is a math of sorts, a logic at work here with these principal rules that I've chosen to share, and the precepts as well. When put together, the equation works beautifully, creating deeply satisfying results that invariably benefit more than just merely you, though you will definitely benefit if comprehended correctly. You may be asking, so what's up with the precepts? Can't I just follow my own code? And I want to be very clear that yes, of course you can. But if you're honest with yourself and you notice that you lack full self-awareness, that is, awareness of how your subconscious is running, your subconscious impulses, and how they dictate your inclinations, behaviors, and choices, then these precepts will help you successfully navigate day-to-day life. And that's the point. So they're more of a guideline or training wheels to start with. Operating under the assumption that you can just wing it with no respect for the game's rules or the tactics that work best to win said game, it becomes exceedingly difficult to truly win, and sometimes even impossible to progress towards the highest quality level possible of what it is that you desire most to know, to have an experience in this life. And surely there are very advanced humans that have their own code that works in relation to the principal rules, these natural universal laws that we'll be going through in this series. But I caution you against arrogantly pushing your own agenda without first learning the basics. Remember, masters go over the basics again and again. What is primary will serve you well. So this is more of a caution on my part, and certainly not a command when I offer this information to you. Please always do what you genuinely feel is best, and may you always be true to yourself. To self-express naturally and follow your own path while acknowledging the restrictions of reality we are working within is a prudent strategy, one that provides the best fruits for you to enjoy. When you have this moral code to stand by that helps bring about the best of your inherent potentials and awareness of how the rules of the game works, you serve in supporting your health, your ability to heal and rehabilitate, your happiness, and your well-being in all areas. So this also includes your sex life, your love life, your relationships, so platonic relationships, working relationships, familial, romantic, all relationships, as well as your ability to become materially and financially self-reliant, emotionally self-reliant, and socially impactful in ways that are deeply meaningful for you. The willfully evolving woman who chooses to develop her character and bring forth the best of her endowments succeeds in so many ways, far beyond just material and financial success, which can provide physical comfort and luxury. But it's just not enough for that woman who wants to promote a healthy, sustainable evolution for herself, for her species, and for those that she cares about most. When too much emphasis is placed on power and wealth, mental, emotional, and physical health invariably suffers for the individual, and we want to avoid that because it not just impacts the individual, but the collective and in the aggregate. Each and every one of you who is listening to this has the potential to contribute to change our world in the most meaningful way. It all starts with you. And as women, although we do love our comforts, and we have every right to, we certainly need much more than that to feel truly fulfilled on a level where we can feel it in our heart, which, by the way, connects to our cervix. Just interesting to think about. Having a strong moral code also will help you find your way when you're feeling unsure, feeling confused about how best to proceed in any given situation. They're like a lantern that lights the way as we become and evolve more aware, more perceptive, moving into life from moment to moment, day to day, year to year, generation to generation, aeon to aeon. With precepts, having a moral code to follow, along with respect and acknowledgement for the rules of our reality, you're well on your way, quite simply, to getting what you want and enjoying it much more thoroughly. So up next, we will begin our overview of the rules, and we'll be using the Kybalion for reference material, so be sure to pick up a copy if you'd like to follow along. And for those of you who've been listening this far, and you're chomping at the bit, and you just want to get the goods now, you want to know how to have the sex life of your dreams, to be able to have those cervical orgasms, to have the marriage and committed relationship that you deeply want, the worldly success that you hunger for, whatever it is that you want, that you're just like, give it to me now. Know that having patience to go through this series, having the willingness and humility to learn, that's what's going to serve you well. So be sure to subscribe to this channel and make sure your notifications are on, because the next principle that we're getting into is mentalism, the most foundational of all of the other principle rules. If you understand this one and truly comprehend this primary principle of all the principles, you'll be well on your way to getting everything that you deeply desire at the highest possible level quality. But what you desire, what it feels like and what it looks like, it may not at all be what you've been trained to assume it will look like. So I'll let you sit with that to think about for now. And I'll meet you in the next episode. This has been Sarah DeHaven, and this is the Willfully Evolving Woman podcast. See you in the next one.